Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Sitting here Sunday morning, obviously a disappointing Saturday night for this Oklahoma program, specifically on the offensive side of the football. And we're sitting here saying, hey, we have to open up this conversation about Michael Hawkins potentially being the guy for Oklahoma. Now, there's some pros and cons to throwing Michael Hawkins out there with this Oklahoma offense that I think clearly, from a personnel standpoint, with all the injuries, is in shambles. But you look at what Michael Hawkins was able to provide for Oklahoma in that second half. This kid's a difference maker, but I think more importantly, he's a gamer that I kind of think fits how this Oklahoma offense needs from the quarterback spot heading into the rest of 2024. Want to have the conversation now before we get into it. And as always, one of the Oklahoma fans, y'all continue to show a ton of love to the boys. And it's a program we love talking about with highs, lows. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. But I think more importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, specifically regarding this quarterback one conversation. Dill, rewatching it Sunday morning, like I think it's clear that Michael Hawkins was the better quarterback on Saturday night. I would love to hear from the Oklahoma fans. I certainly know where I kind of stand on this conversation. I'm going to give you the T-box first. Let's just get right into it. Like if you're Brent Venables, Seth Luttrell heading into this Auburn game in week 5, who's your starting quarterback heading into next week?
And that's where it gets tricky for me because, frankly, I think if Oklahoma is like a well-run offense or aside from the quarterback, part of me thinks Jackson Arnold gives them the better chance. I mean, a bigger arm can run the ball when things are there for him. I think he should be able to manage this offense better just being a second-year guy naturally. But at the end of the day, given the way they're playing up front and kind of where you need to like live in the chaos a little bit as a quarterback because they're just not blocking well enough when you go play big-time SEC teams, I mean, Michael Hawkins certainly gives you a little bit more creativity, a little bit more escapability, and he was making plays for that Oklahoma team that at the end of the day, Jackson Arnold wasn't making. And obviously the big thing is turnovers. He doesn't turn the ball over, and Jackson Arnold made 3 unforgivable, inexcusable turnovers.
Yeah, and I think especially with how good this defense is, like this is an Oklahoma team that can win football games with how good I think Oklahoma's defense is. You cannot have a quarterback that's turning the football over like Jackson Arnold. I see where you're coming from. Where I want to highlight is you said Jackson Arnold should be the quarterback that can run this Oklahoma offense better, being that he's a second-year guy. That's just not what we've seen. And it's not only in the first half against Tennessee, where obviously there was a lot of chaos and Oklahoma was kind of getting whooped up front on the offensive line, but go back to Temple or go back to Tulane or Houston either. We haven't really seen Jackson Arnold find his stride within this Oklahoma offense yet. Michael Hawkins came in. Dill, I think where you want to start is if you were to ask me who was the veteran quarterback, and neither of these guys are veterans, but who's the quarterback that has played more college football in their career, I would have told you the quarterback that played in the second half because there weren't unforgivable mistakes like Jackson Arnold made in the first half. So I get that Mike Hawkins is a true freshman, but everything we heard out of spring and fall camp about this kid kind of being a baller, you kind of saw in the second half against Tennessee. I think it became very clear that with how this Oklahoma offense wants to run and how it needs to run in the 2024 season, I think Mike Hawkins is the quarterback that gives you a better chance to win football games. And a very simple conversation is, hey, we got to start the quarterback that puts us in a better spot to win. I think it was very clear that it was Mike Hawkins specifically in that second half.
No, and that is the quandary, I think, for me, and it would be for me if I was an Oklahoma fan. It's like, part of me, it's like, obviously, if you go the Michael Hawkins route, you probably lose Jackson Arnold, not
Agreed.
just for this year, but I think he's gone. And I think we all kind of understand that, frankly. And what's tough for me is Jackson Arnold as just a pure quarterback talent feels like, I mean, obviously came in as a higher ranked guy. I think he has a bigger arm. I think there are things that, again, in a well-run offense, Jackson Arnold probably gives you a better chance to really, really be special. And that's where it gets really tough because, again, Michael Hawkins right now, given what they have up front and what their offensive line looks like and how poorly they've been running the football, Michael Hawkins' creativity goes a long way in terms of like at least being competitive and giving your defense a chance to keep you in ball games and then kind of gutting one out late, if you will. But it would be really, really disappointing to lose to Jackson Arnold and then go see him rip it up at a school that's
and that might be the case. Like you kind of are seeing that with Dylan Gabriel right now as he's playing with Oregon. That being said, I look at, okay, the high school recruiting rankings. I just think the service is missed on Michael Hawkins. Like, I think it was unforgivable how lowly he was
Yeah.
ranked according to some of these recruiting services. And yeah, Jackson Arnold, look, he spins it. Like, Jackson Arnold is dripping with talent at the quarterback spot, but we've seen a lot of quarterbacks that were highly touted coming out of high school that look really, really good in the offseason camps and can spin the pill. But when the lights turn on, like they just don't have that kind of juice. That's the difference between
And that is concerning. I mean, his play in the first half was really bad. It seemed like almost like he was in a panic. He was making bad decisions. He was not.
looked like a deer in headlights. You know what I mean? Like it looked like the moment was just a little bit too big. And again, I
And
think
that can't happen. I don't care how bad your offensive line is, how bad your skill guys are, or how much injuries you have around you. Like that can't be what you look like. So I think you're right. And that's just, again, I'm just trying to work it out as like, if I'm a fan, like, what do I think? Yeah, Michael Hawkins gives you the better shot, and it probably will hurt to lose Jackson Arnold at the end of the day, but I think you're right. At the end of the day, you got to go with the guy who can give you, and they can frankly win a lot of football games because their defense is great. So
yeah,
if they have just a quarterback who can pull a cup, like get some first downs, get you those like big third and longs with his legs, something like that, which Michael Hawkins was showing that I think he can do, you give yourself a chance in a lot of games that Jackson Arnold's not putting them in.
yeah, and one of the things that I'll kind of say about Mike Hawkins is like he kind of reminds you of like Kyler Murray in the pocket.
Yeah.
Like Jackson Arnold's a good athlete, but he's more of like I gotta build up some speed type athlete. Michael Hawkins is like a jitterbug. Like this kid is so twitchy in the pocket, avoiding pressure, getting outside the pocket, keeping his eyes down the field. And again, when there were throws that were there to be made, like Mike Hawkins made it. He's not just this dual threat quarterback and one dimensional quarterback. Though Michigan, we know all about one dimensional quarterbacks. Look, Mike Hawkins is not a one dimensional quarterback. He is a phenomenal athlete that is tough as nails, but he's also a guy that when the throws are there to be made, he makes them. And you go back to Jackson Arnold's numbers. The Jackson Arnold has completed only 2 passes, 20 plus yards down the field throughout the first 4 games of the season. Like he's just not giving you enough juice as that elite 5-star pocket passer that a lot of us expected him to be. And I think there's a really strong argument to be made that, hey, maybe Jackson Arnold does go to a different program going into his junior year and absolutely lights it up. In my opinion, that's not the game Brent Venables needs to be playing in his head. Like the game that Brent Venables needs to play is what quarterback gives me the best chance to win. If that's Mike Hawkins, then that's who we're starting. I don't care if he's a freshman. I don't care if Jackson Arnold transfers because you owe it to the team to win football games and put the best quarterback out there that gives you the chance to win football games. And I also think that, maybe it can help Oklahoma in the run game a little bit because what's been the biggest problem with Oklahoma is when you can't run the football and you're just sitting in second and third and longs and then you can't pass protect. It's really, really hard. It's a bad rest. You can't win football games consistently. And maybe Mike Hawkins can give you a little bit more juice in terms of getting that run game going, staying on schedule a little bit more. I do want to talk about the offensive line. Bill, I've always been kind of a defender of Bill B. I think he might get some flack on the recruiting trail, although he's got a nice class coming in 2025. He's always developed a lot of NFL dudes. This is, in my mind, inexcusable what you're putting out. And I know a lot of people want to get at Seth Littrell, and I don't think the Oklahoma offense from a play calling standpoint is all that great either, but I'm not going to put all the blame on him. Like, how can you run an offense and call good plays when you can't run the football and you can't pass protect? Like, it is an impossible solution for the offensive coordinator. I think a lot of this comes to Bill B. With how good this Oklahoma defense is, it's just so disappointing to see an offensive line that, quite frankly, all 5 of them got the tails whipped the last night. Like, it wasn't just like a couple of guys. It was all 5 at points just getting beat and beat bad. This Oklahoma offensive line is not good enough. Now, and obviously you're banged up at wide receiver. So, there are other factors that are leading to this Oklahoma offense struggling. But again, 226 yards, especially in the first half, how just you can't win with that kind of offense against a team that's the top 10 team in the country. It's an inexcusable performance by the Oklahoma offense. I do want to move to the defense, though, and just not be all negative. Because if you're an Oklahoma fan, yes, we have to figure things out on the offensive side of the football. This defense is going to give you a chance to win so many football games in the SEC. This is a Tennessee offense that was averaging almost 9 yards per play coming into this game. They averaged 4.5. I was so, I guess, I don't know if the word proud is right. I don't think they give a damn if I'm proud of them. I was impressed with how good this Oklahoma defense was on Saturday night.
Yeah, and really impressed with that defensive line. And I like kind of the game plan they went to, that kind of 3-3-3-3-2 kind of look they were doing. But you saw their defensive linemen really slamming gaps, getting into the backfield, and really disrupting that gap scheme run that Tennessee likes to do. And then obviously, I think the linebacker play was incredible. I thought Lewis Carter had an incredible game. Obviously, Danny Stutzman's always that guy. And then Kip Lewis, I thought, played really well. So again, to see that front seven kind of control that Tennessee offensive line, I get they had some injuries up front for Tennessee, but very, very impressed. Jaden Jackson, I think, is going to be a really good player for this Oklahoma team down the line. Really liked what you saw from that front seven and their ability to control the tempo, be really disruptive, be good in the pass rush. Just really good, even playing with a light box, frankly.
I didn't think Oklahoma would be able to do this, and I was really high on this Oklahoma defense, but I don't think there's many teams in the country that can light box Tennessee and stop the run. Like Oklahoma was able to do that, and that put their secondary in a really good position and not give a ton to Nico. And did Nico make some really, really good throws? And did these wide receivers make some really, really good plays? Yeah, absolutely. Tennessee only scored 25 points, and that was with Oklahoma turning the football over 3 times. Like, this was an Oklahoma defense that I thought was, I don't know if I'd use the word dominant, but pretty damn close to dominant against what I think is one of the best offenses that you see in the country. Again, you start looking at the rest of the teams on the schedule and say, I don't think there's going to be a ton of offenses that are moving the football consistently on this Oklahoma defense. If you can go with Mike Hawkins, if you can find a little identity on the offensive side of the football, again, I think this Oklahoma team can win a lot of football games. I'm really excited for this Auburn game. Like, you look at Auburn and say they've been turning the football over a lot.
That defense is a huge problem for Auburn.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Auburn's in shambles right now. And if you can just find some juice at Dill, I don't want to like compare them to that Michigan team last year, but that like Michigan wasn't putting up 40 points a game. They were winning on the backs of their defense and controlling the time possession. Now you got to see Oklahoma be able to stay on the field a little bit more. Like, if you want your defense to win you football games, you got to help them out. And that doesn't mean scoring 50 points a game, but it does mean staying on the football field, not turning the football over in your own territory. If Oklahoma can find a little identity with potentially Mike Hawkins at quarterback, I think this Oklahoma team can be quite dangerous in the SEC, a team that not a ton of teams want to see on their schedule, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. That's such the frustrating part about what this offense looks like, specifically around the offensive line and quarterback play. When it's that bad and you got a defense that's that good, that's where it gets really kind of frustrating. And so, yeah, they gotta find something. And I think at the end of the day, as much as like there's some arguments in my mind for Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins is the guy who, in this offense, with this lack of protection, his creativity, I think, kind of wins the day for that quarterback battle. And also, Jackson Arnold has been a little bit prone to turnovers, frankly, in almost every game you've seen him, and even going back to that Arizona.
I think it even goes back to, like, I'm less concerned with almost what I saw on the football field, although I certainly am concerned with that, but more just like, Mike Hawkins seems like the guy. Like, you talk about the it factor that we talk about with quarterbacks. It's kind of hard to describe, but you kind of know it when you see it. I think you're seeing it with Mike Hawkins a heck of a lot more than you see it with Jackson Arnold. It's a really tough spot. Like, you go with Mike Hawkins, you probably lose Jackson Arnold to the transfer portal. But again, if you're Brent Venables in this,
also the decision's kind of already been made at this point.
I think so too. Like, it's really going to be hard to go back to Jackson Arnold after giving him the bench. And quite frankly, I don't think you should go back to Jackson Arnold. And I get it. You're kind of taking a gamble here because it's a true freshman quarterback that hasn't started a football game, and you're going into SEC play. You have to go on the road to Auburn. But I think you got to trust your eyeballs.
Also, Hawkins kind of made it a little bit easier by playing good football. Because imagine if he came in and was really bad, then you're in a real pickle. But obviously, Hawkins, he did what he had to do to make that decision look like the right one, frankly.
100%. So we'll see what they do. We'll probably get into some of the film stuff later on this week because, again, I rewatched it this morning. Like, there were some things that you really like to see from Mike Hawkins. We'll close it out there. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Disappointing night for the Sooners, but y'all continue to show a ton of love. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.